Good morning, everyone. I am Professor Ankita Avasthi from SIRT CSE department. Today's topic is concept or characteristics of object-oriented programming. Firstly, we will discuss about object-oriented programming. What is object-oriented? As the name suggests, uses objects in programming, aims to implement real-world entities like inheritance, hiding, polymorphism, etc. in programming. The main aim of object-oriented programming is to bind together the data and the function that operate on them so that no other part of the code can access this data except that function. Characteristics of an object-oriented programming: polymorphism, inheritance, encapsulation, object, class, abstraction. Firstly, we will discuss about class. What is class? The building blocks of C++ that leads to object-oriented programming is a class. It is a user-defined data type which hold its own data members and member function, which can be accessed and used by creating an instance of that class. A class is like a blueprint for an object. For example, consider the class of car. There may be many cars with different names and brand, but all of them will share some common properties, like all of them will have four wheels, speed limit. So here car is the class and wheels, speed limit are their properties of class. A class is a user-defined data type which has data member and member function. Data members are the data variable and member function are the functions used to manipulate these variable, and together these data member and member function define the properties and behavior of the object in a class. We can say that a class in C++ is a blueprint representing a groups of objects which share some common properties and behavior. That is class. Second is object. In other words, object is an instance of class. When a class is defined, no memory is allocated, but when it is instantiated, memory is allocated. Defining class and declaring object. A class is defined in C++ using keyword class followed by the name of class. An object is an instance of a class. When a class is defined, no memory is allocated, but when it is object is created. An object is an identifiable entity with some characteristics and behavior. Object take up space in memory and have an associated address like a record in Pascal or a structure or union in C++. When a program is executed, the object interacts by sending messages to one another. Each object contains data and code to manipulate the data. Object can interact without having to know details of each other's data or code. It is sufficient to know the type of message accepted and type of response returned by the object. Next is inheritance. Inheritance is the capability of a class to derive property and characteristics from another class is called inheritance. It is one of the most important features of object-oriented programming. In inheritance, first is subclass. Subclass is that inherit property from another class is called subclass or derived class. Superclass is whose property are inherited by subclass is called base class or superclass. And reusability. Inheritance support the concept of reusability. When we want to create a new class and there is already a class that includes some of the code that we want, we can derive our new class from the existing class. By doing this, we are reusing the field and method of the existing class. Example is dog, cat, cow can be derived class of animal base class. Next is data encapsulation. The wrapping up of data and function into a single unit is called encapsulation. In normal terms, encapsulation is defined as wrapping up of data and information under a single unit. In object-oriented programming, encapsulation is defined as binding together the data and the function that manipulate them. Consider a real life example of encapsulation in a company. There are different sections like account section, finance section, sales section. The finance section handle all the financial transaction and keeps record of all the data related to finance. Similarly, the sales section handle all the sales related activities and keep record of all the sales. Now there may arise a situation when for some reason an official from the finance section needs all the data about sales in a particular month. In this case, he is not allowed to directly access the data of the sales section. He will first have to contact some other officer in the sales section and then request him to give the particular data. This is what encapsulation is. Here the data of the sales section and the employees that can manipulate them are wrapped under a single name, sales section. It also leads to data abstraction or data hiding, as using encapsulation also hides the data. The data of any of the section like sales, finance and accounts are hidden from any other section. That is data encapsulation. Next is polymorphism. The process of representing one form in multiple forms is known as polymorphism. That means the word polymorphism means having many forms. In simple word, we can define polymorphism as the ability of a message to be displayed in more than one form. A person at the same time can have different characteristics. Like a man at the same time is a father, a husband, an employee, and son. So the same person causes different behavior in different situations. This is called polymorphism. An operation may exhibit different behaviors in different instances. The behavior depends upon the types of data used in the operation. C++ supports operator overloading and function overloading in polymorphism. Operator overloading is the process of making an operator to exhibit different behavior in different instances is known as operator overloading. And function overloading is using a single function name to perform different type of tasks. Polymorphism is extensively used in implementing inheritance. For example, suppose we have to write a function to add some integer. Sometime there are two integers, sometime there are three integers. We can write the addition method with the same name having different parameter. The concerned method will be called according to parameter. Next is abstraction. Data abstraction is one of the most essential and important features of object-oriented programming in C++. Abstraction means displaying only essential information and hiding the details. Data abstraction refers to providing only essential information about the data to the outside world, hiding the background detail or implementation. Consider a real-life example of a man driving a car. The man only knows that pressing the accelerator will increase the speed of the car, or applying brake will stop the car, but he doesn't know about how on pressing accelerator the speed is actually increasing. He doesn't know about the inner mechanism of the car or implementation of accelerator, brakes, etc. in the car. This is what abstraction. We can implement abstraction in C++ using class. The class helps us to group data members and member functions using available access specifier. A class can decide which data member will be visible to the outside world and which is not. One more type of abstraction in C++ can be header files. For example, consider the method present in math.h header file. Whenever we need to calculate the power of a number, we simply call the function present in the math.h header file and pass the numbers as argument without knowing the underlying algorithm according to which the function is actually calculating to the power of the number. Next is Introduction to C++. It developed in Bell Labs 1979. Start as extension to C++, macros and variables. It added new useful features. Now it is a language of its own, C++. The next thing after C language. Object-oriented programming is a programming paradigm based on the concept of object which can contain data and code. Data in the form of fields and code in the form of procedures. A common feature of object is that procedures are attached to them and can access and modify the object's data field. First class object atomic type in C, integer, float, character have values and set of operations that can be applied to them. How represented irrelevant to how they are manipulated. Other objects structure in C, it cannot be printed. It don't have operations associated with them, at least not directly. Object-oriented programming is a computer programming model that organizes software design around data or object rather than function and logic. An object can be defined as a data field that has unique attribute and behavior. It focuses on the object that developer want to manipulate rather than the logic required to manipulate them. This approach to programming is well suited for programs that are large, complex, and actively updated or maintained. This includes programs for manufacturing and design, as well as mobile application. For example, object-oriented programming can be used for manufacturing system simulation software. The organization of an object-oriented program also make the method beneficial to collaborative development, where projects are divided into groups. Additional benefit of object-oriented programming include code reusability, scalability, and efficiency. Object-oriented programming is a computer programming model that organizes software design around data or object rather than functions and logic. When an object next instance of class in C++, an object is an instance of a class. When a class is defined, no memory is allocated, but when it is created, memory is allocated. A class is defined in C++ using keyword class followed by the name of the class. An instance of a class is an object. It is also known as a class object or class instance. Next is comments in C++. Comments can be used to explain C++ code and to make it more readable. It can also be used to prevent execution when testing alternative code. Comments can be single-line or multi-line. Single line comment start with 2 forward slashes Any text between slashes and end of the line is ignored by the compiler. This is single line comment, and multi-line comment start with and operator. Next is character set. It is a combination of English language comprising the alphabet and the white space and some symbols from the mathematics including the digit and the spatial symbol. C++ character set means the character and the symbol that are understandable and acceptable by the C++ program. Next is character set can process any of the 256 ASCII character as data or as literal. Next is preprocessor are the source of our program. Those are executed when they are passing to compiler, and preprocessor are always executed at the time of compilation. It performs preprocessor operation on C and C++ file before they are passed to the compiler. You can use the preprocessor to conditionally compile code, insert file, specify compile time, error message, and apply machine-specific rule to section of code. Preprocessor are directives which give instruction to the compiler to pre-process the information before actual compilation start. First, define preprocessor. Define preprocessor directive creates symbolic constant. The symbolic constant is called a macro and the general form of the directive. When this line appear in this a file, all subsequent occurrence of macro in that file will be replaced. Next step, data type. All variable use data type during declaration to restrict the type of the data to be stored. We can say that data type are used to tell the variables the type of data it can store. Whenever a variable is defined in C++, the compiler allocates some memory for that variable based on the data type with which it is declared. Every data type requires a different amount of memory. C++ support a wide variety of data type, and the programmer can select the data type appropriate to the needs of the application. It specifies the size and type of value to be stored, storage representation, and machine instruction to manipulate each data type differ from machine to machine. C++ support data types are primary or built-in data type, derived data type, and user-defined data type. Built-in data type, the basic data type provided by C++ are integral, floating point, and void data type. Among these data type are integral and floating point data type can be preceded by several type modifiers. These modifiers are the keyword that alter either size or range or both of the data type. The various modifiers are short, long, signed, and unsigned. By default, the modifier is signed. Void means without any value. Void data type represent a valueless entity. Void data type is used for those functions which does not return a value. Double floating point data type is used for storing double precision floating point values or decimal value. Keyword used for double floating point data type is double. It typically require 8 bytes of memory space. Boolean is used for storing Boolean or logical value. It can store either true or false. Int is used for int data type. It requires 4 bytes of memory space. Character data type is used for storing character data type. 1 byte of memory space is allocated. Integral data type is used to store integer and include character, and int data type. Character referred to the alphabet, number, other character. defined in the ASCII character set. Int, int data, number without the fractional part represent integer data type. The int data type is used to store integer. Floating point data type is used to store real number. This is the range of data type: short int, unsigned short int, long int, float character, unsigned long integer, double and long double. Derived data type that are derived from the primitive or built-in data type are referred to as derived data type. Thank you.